we're going to put this up on YouTube, everyone, and then we're going to share it on social media. So anyone that isn't able to join tonight, just so everyone knows, I'll have Melissa introduce herself. Feel free to ask questions as we go. Melissa said she could literally talk about this topic for 3 to 4 hours, and I told her that we wanted to keep it around. And Lee's shaking her head, saying yes.
Yes,
we want to keep it around 25 to 30 minutes. But if you guys have questions while we're going through it, feel free to ask them while we're going through the presentation. And again, thanks everyone for joining. The whole idea of this is to share, best practices and knowledge across school districts in Connecticut to help each other. And Melissa, who's done a video for our 2-Minute Tuesday weekly knowledge sharing, is clearly passionate about this topic and volunteered to do this webinar for us tonight. So I'll give it over to Melissa. If you can introduce yourself, Melissa, and kick it off, that'd be great.
Yeah. Well, I know a couple of you. I saw your names come through. My name is Melissa Thom, and I am in West Hartford at Bristow Middle School. I am also the Vice President of the Connecticut Association of School Librarians, so I'm really happy to see everybody here. This is my 4th year being a librarian. I was a classroom teacher for 12 years, and I have loved my transition into the library world. It's kind of coalesces everything that I really love in life, actually. So my website is down there, and I've been really working hard to try to get everything in one spot. So when I talk about stuff, if you want to try to access it or get more information, hopefully it's relatively easy to find. And if you are on Twitter, please follow me. I'm Miss Tombokitis. And if you tweet tonight at all or later on about anything you hear or you have questions, try to use the hashtag schoolwide culture of reading as well, because that will kind of keep all of our stuff in one spot. And if you would like to email me and get in touch later, my email's there too. So joyfullearning@melissathom.com. And like he said, feel free to interject if you have ideas to add on, if you have questions about things. I probably won't get through all of the slides because this was about a 45-minute presentation originally. And I want to focus on what you are interested in learning, and we'll get started. Maybe, because it's, oh, there we go. Okay, so these are just a couple of the goals that I put on so it helps me focus. So I'm hoping to share some practical ways that everybody, no matter what their situation, can help develop that school-wide culture of reading, and that the strategies will empower both the students and the staff. And I want to really highlight the idea that this is more than just about the students in schools. It's equally as important to engage the staff, including administration, the office people, the custodians, people in the cafeteria, the TAs, because if you really want school-wide, all of those people have to be involved. And then we might get a little bit into this depending on time, but I also have some tips for building and sustaining high-quality, high-interest book collection on a budget. And so if you are not a librarian, but you are a classroom teacher, I had a pretty rocking classroom library when I was a classroom teacher, and I have a lot of tips for you to kind of continue that. And I actively work in my position now as a school librarian, helping teachers continue to grow their libraries. Oh my gosh, I have to click. So my action steps that I kind of came up with that sort of summarizes all of the stuff that I talk about with this topic is, the first thing I suggest is, like in anything you're trying to do, just identify a continuum of actions you can take, and make sure you include both short-term and long-term goals, and start small and kind of just see what your situation is and what the culture of your building is and what are people already doing to build on, and think of some of those longer term goals, and don't get overwhelmed by how impossible they might seem right now, but start working slowly but surely towards them. Like I said, this is my 4th year being in my position, and my first year was really just a year of observing and kind of getting a feel for everything. And it's really only now in this 4th year that I've kind of felt like some of the ideas that I had back in that first year are starting to come together, because it takes time. This is something I don't always do well, but I really try to recommend to avoid the squirrel mentality, which means trying to do it all at once. So classroom teachers and librarians, we know if we're in those positions that there's never enough time in our day to get everything that we really want to get done. So just try to zoom in and focus in on some of those goals that you really have as a school. And most importantly, stay focused on the positive. We all have situations and stories we probably could share about those negative Nancys or Neds in our buildings. And, you know, you're going to have that no matter where you go and no matter what field you find yourself in. So really try to accentuate the positive and find those people that are fitting that characteristic and get them involved so that they can kind of spread some of their positive attitude and energy. And just to kind of orient ourselves, I just added this definition of culture. So it is really just a way of thinking, behaving, or working that exists in a place or organization, and we're applying the culture of reading to our schools in this context. And one book that I highly recommend that is very readable, and this series is great, it's the Hacking Whatever series. They have about 12 different titles, and this one is Hacking Literacy, 5 Ways to Turn Any Classroom into a Culture of Readers. And one of my favorite quotes from this book that I read last summer was, teachers who create a culture of reading consistently reinforce a mindset, system, and set of habits that draw students into rich lives as literate. And the thing that really stands out the most to me is the word habits, because reading is a habit, and it's something that it's possible to develop in every individual. So just to start setting up some of those systems at your school and in your home too, if you're a parent or if you have kids that you interact with, just getting them into that habit of having a book with them wherever they go and talking about books and going to different events that are centered around authors and reading and literacy, and it really will become part of your life. So some of the specific strategies that I've tried to use at my school and in my own personal life, make the reading lives of students visible. And down in the lower right-hand corner of this slide, something simple like in your email signature, just have what you're currently reading and maybe what you've recently finished. And I'm not going to lie, mine is a little extreme, and I've tried to shorten it up a little bit. I've had comments that people say, I don't even know where your message is because you have too much stuff in your signature. So I've tried to get that to be a little bit less crazy, but having students do that too, like when 6th graders come in for orientation in the fall, I teach them some basics of their email in Google, and then I do show them how to create one of these signatures if they so choose to do so. Another simple strategy that I can do in my situation is I go into a classroom of language arts where they're doing independent reading, and all of them have a book on their desk, and I just take a picture of their book covers and I create a 1-page printout that says what Miss Leghorn's 3rd period class is reading, and then she hangs that up on her window that isn't facing the hallway, so anybody walking by can just kind of get a snapshot of some of those covers. And sometimes that's all kids need, is just to see that cover, and they come down to the library and ask if I have a certain book. So that's kind of fun. And then not only the students, remember I said that it's really important to include the adults in our buildings if we're trying to do school-wide. And so I have really kind of tried to key into the people at my school that I know are active readers, and I engage them in a variety of things. So the 2 pictures in the middle there are my 2 favorite ladies in the office, and they're avid readers, and I talk to them daily kind of about what they're reading or what they've heard or what they've finished. And the posters are something really simple, and this is not a unique idea. I've seen this in many, many schools, and it's just simply a poster, and it has the person's name and or picture and what are they currently reading, and they hang that up outside their classroom or their office or in the cafeteria. I have one of the lunch cafeteria workers doing this because she is a reader as well. And it just really shows the students that the people that they interact with and the adults in their school are active readers. And then one of the things that I love in one of the 6th grade teachers' room, she has a co-taught class. And so both of those teachers, you'll see in the upper right-hand corner, they have that, and they use the fancy tape on their whiteboard. So it just is very aesthetically pleasing as well. And they just have what they finished, what they currently are reading, and what they're looking forward to. So something as simple as just having that on your whiteboard as a teacher can be really powerful for students because it's something they see every day. And the important part is to have it, be changed regularly so students can see that you're finishing books, or, you know, if you abandon something, just be very open about it and just share your life as a reader as the adult in the school, in the room. This was something else I tried to do at the beginning of this year. It was a lot of fun, and it really taught me some things about some of the people I work with that I just really hadn't ever known before. So I asked people to come to the library, or I would hunt them down in their classroom or their office, and I asked if they could find a book that they loved for whatever reason, and I wanted to take their picture with just either their eyes showing or their whole face covered. And then I created a bulletin board that you can kind of see. It's a little bit small, but I put each of their pictures on one of those apples. And then the border that I had started was their Bitmojis that had something to do with reading. And the teachers really got into that. And Bitmojis are super fun. So if you do not have one, you should definitely add that of your list of things to do, because you can convey a lot with a Bitmoji. And I even had a few of the adults who had never either heard of it or just hadn't had one and didn't really know how. They created one just for this project that I was trying to create for this bulletin board. So this bulletin board actually became now my literacy book-related library bulletin board, and it changes every couple of months. So people just know that they can look to this board for different book-related information as they walk through the hallway. Another person that you should write down and look into is Brad Gustafson. He is a principal in Minnesota. I got to meet him at the Scholastic Reading Summit last year, and I am from Minnesota, so I was very excited to know that there's some amazing teaching going on from my home state. But this is something that he said, that there is something about hearing another person's heart that creates a special connection. The same is true for books. And I think that really made me think of this idea of talking about what we're reading with the people around us. And that's something that I try to do on a daily basis with multiple people. And so book talks are something that every single person can do in a variety of ways. You can do planned or impromptu. They don't all have to be something that you spend lots of time prepping. And they should involve all members of your community. And they could be either just talking and passing with somebody, or if you're conferencing with a student in some class situation, you could write them. I've had students write just their ideas of what they liked about the book or how it made them feel. And then we share that in our community or on social media with other readers outside of our school. And digital, I love the idea of doing book trailers, and you can, incorporate different technology. Some of us have maker spaces in our schools, so you can involve a green screen and use a Do-Ink app, and kids just have a lot of fun with it. And I have a lot of students who even don't consider themselves readers, will watch some of these projects kind of take place in the library and get interested, and might ask some questions about books that they probably wouldn't have otherwise. And then real quick, down in that lower right-hand or left-hand corner, that is a screenshot of the 6th grade language arts teacher and the special ed teacher who have the co-taught class I mentioned. And they do a video every couple of months for the students that they show in their class, and it is amazing. That's not something that everybody's comfortable doing, but I encourage you to kind of practice and test it out and see if you can make it work for where you are and for your comfort level, because students really, really are engaged. And this is them acting out a scene from A Wrinkle in Time, because that was a book that they were reading as a class at that time, and the students just really got into it. Here's another quote from that book, The Hacking Literacy, and it's just building a culture of readers does involve taking the risk of ceding some power to the students. And that can be the hardest part for some of us, is just letting go a little bit and not always knowing what that end result is going to be. So if you have independent reading time in your situation, but you're worried, well, what about those kids who don't read and they're just wasting their time and I need to be directly teaching? Or what if I haven't read that book before and I don't know what if they're reading it? I can't tell if they're reading it if I've never read it. Those are some things that you kind of have to just work through on your own. And there's lots of professional books that can help you through that. I have a couple recommendations that I'll throw in now that are on my bibliography as well. And I don't know if I turned off my little camera thing, so I think, there you go. So this is one of my new faves. It's called Game Changer, and it's book access for all kids. So how many of you have seen this one? Are you guys on mute, or are you? I see Lee's hand up in the air.
I've seen it. Yep. I don't have it though, but I've seen it.
Yeah, I highly recommend it. It's very readable, and it kind of highlights specific individuals and how they have actually implemented it. So it's way beyond the theory; it's more the application. So this is a newer one by Donalyn Miller and Colby Sharp, and then these two are two of my absolute favorites that I've kind of built my pedagogy around, and they're both by Donalyn Miller, the book Whisper and Reading in the Wild. And these are books that if you know them, you should share these with staff members, especially new teachers that are maybe not as familiar with some of the works that we've used in the last 5 to 10 years that have been really influential in kind of guiding our practice. Let's see. And then just the idea of giving them choice. So I really want to stress that I'm trying to spread the word that listening and audiobooks are not cheating, and they have their place. And I think that when teachers have this idea that, well, if a kid is listening to a book, it's not the same as reading, I challenge them to think about what is the purpose of reading. It's to get a story, and it's to learn about somebody who is either the same as you or different. And whether you are decoding the words on a page or you are listening with your ears, you're getting the same thing. And it opens up a whole new world for those students who struggle, and especially the older kids that really can't access some of the books that really they need to access because they just don't have those reading skills yet. The audio can just really hook them. And I've had a couple of success stories, even just this year, with students who come in and check out the audiobooks that I have and have really just become regular visitors to the library when last year I didn't ever see them. So look in, there's a lot of free options too. You don't have to have a paid subscription to Overdrive. I'm fortunate that we do in my district in the middle school, but they're Epic, I think, is one of the better ones for younger readers for sure. And that's free for teachers and schools. And they have a lot of choices to look through. This is something I'm not going to talk a lot about, but I do have information on my website, and it's a really fun way to engage readers. And I call it book tasting. And this is, again, not original to me by any means. Shannon at Sedgwick is kind of the one that sort of introduced me more formally to it. And she's the one that found this guest check online, and she tweaked it to make it fit her needs. And it's just this idea that kids are tasting all these different books, and this is when you do mini book talks, and you can do it by theme. So you'll see this was an 8th grade unit on memoirs, and so the 8th grade teacher did most of this work as far as putting the books together in their themes, and then I helped do some of the book talks for them. And it's just a great way to expose kids to a whole bunch of titles in a short amount of time. And then just some ideas that I've tried to brainstorm a little bit with how to increase the circulation. And this could be both in a library or a classroom, but the idea of bringing books to where the students are. So in a middle school and high school setting, sometimes students don't have that built-in time for kids to visit the library, and some kids just don't have time in their schedule to get there. So I've put books on this, like my book truck, and I'll wheel it down to the 6th grade hallway and just leave it there. And I'll have a Chromebook, because I do self-checkout in my library, so students have the ability to log on themselves and scan their book. There are books that are going to get misplaced or lost, but it wasn't such a problem that it kept me from doing it. And it really gave that access to so many students that it was really worth that potential risk of books kind of not getting checked out officially or walking away. But when you have the teachers on board too, and you just have your system, oh my gosh, that was 25 minutes. That's my timer. Okay. All right. So let's kind of go through. Okay. Ooh, this one we're not going to talk a lot about, but
Melissa, you're okay. Go for like another 5, and then we'll open it up to questions.
Okay. One of the things I've been trying to do for the last couple of years with limited success, I've had some kids get really into it, but it hasn't been widespread, but to try to create a book review club. And I work really hard to get advanced copies at different conferences or from publishers. And the the boxes that those kids are opening in that picture was from last winter. I shipped back 70 pounds of books from Denver when I was at the conference for ALA. And all of them were books that hadn't been published officially yet, because that's why those conferences are so important. Publishers want to get the books into the hands of us librarians and teachers so that we can then promote them and buy them for our schools. And so the kids got to unpack the boxes when they came. And my goal is to have them read them and then do one of those reviews, whether it's a video or written, and send it off to that publisher so I can kind of get a symbiotic relationship going on where our kids are looking at their books and then they're sending us more books in the future. So I have lots of suggestions on how to get books, so you can talk to me separately about that. And then another way to just really kind of make reading kind of cool and be kind of a special thing is just honor special occasions with books. So one of the things that I have at Bristow is a birthday book club, and that's from Junior Library Guild is where I got that idea, and they sort of support me a little bit with that. But it's the idea that you pay $10 you get to pick a book that we buy for the library, and you get your name in it, and you check it out. You're the first one to read it, and then it goes into the library, donated in your honor. So you could do any type of special occasion with that, because somebody did point out one time that, well, I have a lot of students at my school who don't celebrate birthdays. So I'm like, oh, I never really thought of that, because my community, that's not the situation. So again, knowing your community and kind of making some decisions based on that. Always connect with the public libraries in a variety of ways. So I just want to say that to remind people. You probably already do that. And then this is when we get to a chance to talk. If you have any ideas, I want you to share them with us. And then these were some of the issues that I kind of have dealt with. And so what if adults in the building do not consider themselves readers, which we have them, and this is how I feel. That is basically my reaction to that. But like I said, find your people on your staff who share your passion, because then they become your ambassador. So these are two of my people at my school. That's Miss Leghorn, the language arts teacher, and Miss Mashad, she's a reading teacher, and they're at our book swap in the spring getting books for their classroom library. Simple things that you can do at like staff meetings, talk to your principal, and just have your principal start every staff meeting with a turn and talk about what you're reading with the adults in your building. It's really interesting, because people that I wouldn't really think to be hardcore readers, they are. And I find out what they're reading by sitting at their table. So I think it's really, it's very easy to do, and it can be very culture changing. And then this is what you want to be doing. You want to be consuming, but then you want to be sharing, and you want to be producing. And this whole cycle, you'll find yourself at different spots depending on what you're kind of talking about. But we want to move fluidly and not just stay in that consume. We want to move on and kind of be the sharers and the producers of some of this. We'll kind of skip over this for now. Lots of free stuff to do, such as this webinar. There's that habit again of having kids and adults build that habit. This is from the Scholastic Book Fair that I got this idea 4 years ago, and they have reading tickets, and we have a Get Caught reading raffle twice a year, and we do the book fair. And anytime a kid has a book with them in their possession, like an independent reading book, they get a ticket, and it goes in a raffle, and they can pick a poster or a book. And a lot of kids and adults get into that. I walk around, and it's so funny how excited the adults are when I hand them a ticket. Here's some additional ideas that you can kind of look through. And all the stuff that's colored is hyperlinked. So when I do share this PDF presentation, you can click to learn a little bit more. Sorry, I'm flying through this. Oh, well, this is something cool that I have a lot of kids coming to the library during gym because they either have a concussion or they have something that they can't do gym for. So I have an exercise bike, and there's an actual program called Read and Ride that you can look up, and kids ride the bike and they read. And I have adults sometimes come in and just hang out, and for 15 minutes we'll just sit on the bike, and it has a nice view out the window. So that's kind of cool. And that was given to me by the health department. They're like, we're getting rid of this old bike. Do you want it? And I said, yes, please. So it's in my library now. And then as the librarian, I try to get the staff into my space as often as possible. So we have the end of the year party in the library, and I facilitated a summer book swap for the staff. So I had people bring in adult books that they loved, not like inappropriate adult books, just adult books, books for adults. And they got really excited about it. So again, we're big kids. We like the same things as the students do, so don't forget them. And then take a picture of this slide, or just because I want you to have the URL, and I want you to actively share some of your ideas that I created on this Padlet. And this has been going for about 6 months now, so there's other ideas on there that you can take away, and hopefully you contribute to some questions that people had that I didn't have answers for, so maybe you do. And then last but not least, find your people and be joyful. And the left picture is Barbara Johnson in the unicorn outfit, and she is the president of Castle. So that just tells you how we roll. She's the president and I'm the vice president, and we have a lot of fun. And then the middle picture is my friend Carrie and Sarah and I, and that is the only room where our butts are sitting that we had in our car coming back from a conference, because everything else is full of books. It was amazing, but she probably didn't get very good gas mileage on the way home from that trip. And then here are some suggestions for who to follow on Twitter. And if you are not on Twitter, that is your homework. You have to get on Twitter, because that is one of the most useful social media tools, professional learning networks that I have. And it has connected me with people from all over the world. And it has made me such a better teacher and learner. So I highly encourage you to start learning how to do that, because there's lots of positive stuff out there. And then I've created a list of recommendations for resources to like learn about this, more professional sources. And that link is to the full bibliography that you will be able to access when you go onto my PDF. And then thank you. Oh, okay, done. That was like Micro Machine fast. 8:02.
Thank you, Melissa. So why don't we open it up to questions, and I believe I'm going to unmute everyone, just so everyone, you don't have to worry about unmuting yourself. I'll unmute everyone, and then if anyone has any questions for Melissa, Melissa, I don't know if you have to run or anything, but hopefully you can stay for like 10 or 15 minutes and answer any questions people might have.
Oh yeah, I'm good, definitely. Or ideas.
All right, everyone is now unmuted.
Hi, Melissa. I'm Deb Tebalt. I actually attended your presentation at the Barnes & Noble in Blueback Square a couple weeks ago on a Saturday.
Yep.
And I thought that was great. You did such a wonderful job, and thank you for, giving up your Saturday morning to do that for so many of us. A question that I have is in terms of high school, like the ideas that you presented tonight as well as on that Saturday. Do you think like this is something that would be, well received in a high school environment?
I absolutely do, for the fact that I know like my 8th graders who have gone up to high school, they would love, like they would be so excited to see some of these things going into high school. And I think there's a disconnect when they get there for a lot of them. And there's staff members though who are just like me at a high school level, and you are excited about reading and are readers in your own life. So I try to find some of those people and just start small and put up, just stuff all over. Teachers can say what they're reading and students can say what they're reading, and you're gonna have, I don't know, maybe not as many teachers. I've never really been in a high school setting to teach, but I think that if you bring the enthusiasm, it's very contagious. So I think you absolutely can apply these topics of the culture of reading and the classroom library idea too. I don't think classroom library should stop at the middle school. I think they need to extend into the high school, and I'm not seeing a lot of them. So that's part of why I really started to talk a lot about that.
Thank you.
I saw Jen on there too. Hi, Jen. I know like almost all of the people that are on this. You guys, this isn't new information. I'm so happy you're here, but.
Well, Melissa, I'm going to say that like, it's always just great to hear, you always pick up a little bit of something. And so it reminds me of something that I wanted to do and didn't get around to, or, whatever. So it's just a pleasure to hear from you, and and we'll definitely add things to the Padlet and stuff. So I'm going to keep myself muted because my children make weird noises. So.
All right. Thanks. Does anybody else have any opinions about the question about high school, or any experience?
I work in a middle school as well. My name is Allison. I worked with Debbie T-Ball a long time ago. So hi, Deb.
Oh, hi, Allison.
I find that my 7th graders are super readers, and then they start to fade away. I like the end of 8th grade, really like all interest in independent reading is dwindled down to a few. So I would just love to keep the spirit of reading going longer. And I just don't know if anyone else who teaches middle school sees that similar drop off, and if they have any tips for the end of 8th grade to really keep it going.
I definitely see that, and I also agree. And I partly wonder if it is because of some of the shifts that seems to happen in 8th grade language arts. You know what I mean? I don't know some of the titles that they're being asked to read, and I think that as they go through middle school and then into high school, they just have less opportunities to choose what they're reading because they have so much required reading that there really isn't time left in their day for that pleasure reading that we find so enjoyable as adults in middle school and elementary school. And I don't have a really great solution to that, except like I said, those students who are 8th graders, when they were at my school, they're still reading, because one of the things that I've done with them is I have them create a Goodreads account as part of like their summer reading when they're in 8th grade, because they're 13 and they can do that at that point. And I see what they're reading regularly. And the kids who were readers when they were with me last year have continued, which I'm very happy to see. So if we can try to get more kids excited about that going from 6th to 7th, hopefully it kind of sticks to 8th, but you need to have the teachers on board too. And it has to be a partnership between the,
I'm going to, Melissa, can I throw in, because I have an 8th grader like in my house, and he's going to be mad because I'm talking about him, but he was a kid that in like 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, like he would read for literally 6 hours a day. No, like 6 hours. No, like just gone into books. And 7th and 8th grade, it's not there. And I attribute a lot of it, unfortunately, to some of the things you mentioned, that in school they are required to read certain things. And it's made it really, really hard. And so, as a mom, and I'm an elementary librarian, but I just get anything. I watch middle school people and I see what they're posting, and I will just get books from the library and put them in his room. And, so for him, it's like whatever it takes, whatever. And so some of it is just making those books available. And, sometimes I'm like, you just need to go in and read. And if he's reading Garfield, then great, but at least he's reading something. And so, but it's really hard when he's got all that homework, and, his brain is tired. And as much as he loves reading, and he'll always be a reader, and, we get a Mad magazine, some of those things that are a little later, it's just, when you've read 2 hours worth of social studies, it's really hard to go back in and have time for some of that pleasure stuff. And so it is a big, giant battle that I will keep fighting, but.
Right. Well, and something you said, he'll always be a reader.
Absolutely.
And the thing that if we get that habit developed when they're younger and they're going into high school as readers, even if they don't read a lot, because I think back to my middle school and high school, I didn't read a lot either. At least I don't remember what I read. But I'm like a voracious reader now. So that habit was formed. And as long as we don't miss that boat when they're younger, we can have a lot of faith and confidence that if they have the books, they will read them eventually.
They absolutely will. And I think, I feel like there's only a librarian like half the time at his school. And I think that's a big shame. And we're working hard to change that. But I think that would change the culture of reading at his particular middle school. So we'll see what happens. But
have a librarian, dang it.
Fingers crossed, we're working on it. All right, I got to go put people to bed, but thank you so much. It was great to talk to you.
Yeah, thanks for being on.
All right, you're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right.
So any additional questions for Melissa? Melissa, that was all great content. And again, we'll make sure to, I'll try to have it shared on social media either tomorrow or Friday on YouTube, and then I'll share it on Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram, and we'll make sure everyone gets access to it. But any further questions for Melissa?
No, thank you so much, Melissa. It was wonderful.
Yeah, you're welcome. And
Did you ever use VoiceThread to have kids share books?
No, I never really learned how to use that tool.
I know. I'm trying to think of another use for it because I don't use it. But I was thinking if they wrote something about a book or made a little review, then people could talk about.
Almost even like that was an idea that I'd had too, is to create like a podcast at my school that people could record their books. Well, last but not least, Flipgrid is an amazing tool that I have used for book talks. And if you, I think most of the people that I know that are on here know what that is, but if you haven't heard of Flipgrid, definitely check it out. And it's free now because Microsoft is bought it out and they have offered it to teachers for free. So flipgrid.com. And then this is a page that I just pulled up that is the linked on my last slide that has everything kind of that I talked about with the links. So School Library Connection had made this really nice handout for me. So I just kind of copied it and added a couple things. So it's a nice cheat sheet. So that'll be available for you guys too.
Thank you so much. It was great, honey. Good job.
So Melissa, speaking of Flipgrid, I'll just do a plug. So we're having a Microsoft open house at the West Farms Microsoft store next month on Saturday, March 16th, and they will actually be they're going to be going over a lot of different free resources for educators, including Minecraft, and I believe they're talking about Flipgrid as well. So that is shared on my social media, and we'll be sharing it a little bit more over the next week or two. But that is going to be free to all educators from 8 to 10 a.m. at the West Farms Microsoft store. And they're going to open up the whole store to educators. They're going to have some light refreshments and then do some demos and show people some stuff. So
very cool. Yeah, I think I saw that, and I think I reshared it a couple times. So I'll keep spreading that.
We appreciate that. So I'll just close this. Thank you everyone for joining. And Innovate Connecticut, the whole idea behind this, and I've said this to Melissa, I'm not an educator. I kind of think of myself as a connector. I'm married to an educator. She's a speech language pathologist, but I have a degree in IT. I now work in human resources, but I have a passion for the state, and I have 3 little kids that I want to see do well in our education system. And my whole thought was, how can I give back to the state and the education system? So that's why I do what we do, and we do it by sharing 2-minute videos every Tuesday. Melissa's done one of those, and then we're trying to do a webinar every month. And the whole idea is to share, best practices and knowledge across school districts, because as many of you have probably realized, we're pretty good at sharing stuff within our school districts, but not with the school districts, out, like next door or across the state. So I feel like we can have a really big impact. And, Melissa's sharing these things tonight. Hopefully some of you can bring them back to your schools. And rather than you trying to come up with these things on your own and recreate the wheel, we can leverage the great stuff that Melissa has. So feel free to follow us on social media. And again, share with any of your fellow educators about what we're doing.
Okay.
Thank you for what you are
Thank you.
doing. It's awesome.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you so much, Melissa. We appreciate all your knowledge, and we'll make sure to share this on social media soon. So thanks, everyone. Have a great night.
Good night.
Thank you.
See you around, Melissa. Bye.
Thanks, guys.